Hey comrades, welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday was a pretty good day for the most part, although I started to feel kind of down towards the end of the day. And Charmaine thought it was because I didn't like spending time with her and I didn't like being alone with her, but then I took my meds and I started feeling a bit better. I'm also really tired. I had a big coffee in the middle of the day while I was reading State and Revolution, which I finished by the way. And I think it's really made me very tired. I went to the pub with Adam, and it was good to see Adam. Adam's doing pretty well. Adam got really worried about something at work, but it turned out to be nothing. It turned out to be quite a good thing actually, which is really good. I'm really happy that it was a good thing for him. Maybe I should cover a bit of State and Revolution. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I know Tuesday's vlog was a bit negative, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better right now at least. So State and Revolution is generally thought to complete a kind of theoretical movement in Lenin's thought. Vladimir Lenin, the leader of the Bolshevik Party, until his death in 1924. He was 1870 to 1924. And so what is to be done is generally thought of a very libertarian and almost anarchist kind of pamphlet written by Lenin, and it's meant to be about smashing the state and organizing communist parties or Marxist parties in very democratic ways. And then by the time that the Bolshevik Revolution started to come about, or the first phase of the Russian Revolution came about in February 1917, in August and September 1917, Lenin decided to write a new book called State and Revolution, and it was meant to kind of outline what the Bolsheviks were meant to do in the second part of the Russian Revolution, which is when the Bolsheviks seized power. And basically what Lenin says in State and Revolution is that you need to, so first of all, smash the bourgeois state. So a Marxist revolution or a communist revolution should try and smash the bourgeois state. So that is defeat the army, defeat the police, or get the army on your side, which is luckily what happened in the Russian Revolution. So somehow dismantle the army, dismantle the police, and dismantle the state bureaucracy, and so get rid of the device of the ruling class. And so the reason why there exists a state in the first place is because current capitalist society is a class society. The one class rules over another, and that's the purpose of the state. The state is a special device used for one class to suppress the other. And at the moment, there's a very small class of people called the capitalist class. I'm pretty sure Charmaine would know this, right? I've talked about it enough. I think you're going to sleep, aren't you? I think Charmaine's asleep. So there's a small class called the capitalist class, and these people control the means of production. And so
like in that pyramid.
Kind of like the pyramid, yeah. So at the moment, when you go to work, you create an economic surplus, and so when you go to work, you get paid a fair wage, you get paid the going rate for your job, right? But when you go to work, you always end up making a little bit more than you're actually paid, and so that little bit extra is called surplus value, and the capitalist steals that from you. So even though you've made the surplus value, the capitalist gets to keep it, and they take it privately and they invest it privately and they get to keep it. And that's basically what capitalism is. That's the definition of capitalism. And so there's one class of people called the capitalist class, and they get to appropriate the surplus value of society, and they control the state. So have you noticed how in the last few decades there's been lots of tax cuts for companies? People hide their money in the Cayman Islands and Singapore and lots of different places in very low tax havens, and they don't get taxed properly by the state. And all of the politicians seem to always be rooting for the rich people. That's because the rich people kind of control the state. The state is parasitic on society, so the state kind of saps a little bit of the productive capabilities of society, or the surplus value of society, but the state is fundamentally the army and the police and the bureaucracy of the state. So the bureaucracy of the state makes sure that the state can manage what's going on and tell the army what to do or tell the police what to do. But really, that's all the state is. It's just a repressive apparatus. And so, one particular example that one of my IPE lecturers, my International Political Economy lecturers, gave to me was that. So let's say you got a parking ticket, and then you refused to pay it. You would then be summoned to court. But then, if you didn't go to court, the police, you'd probably get a bigger fine. And then you might get your car taken away from you, but if you try and get your car back, the police might arrest you. And so if you keep going like that, eventually the army will rock up and the army will, shoot you, or the police will send you to jail. So it's perfectly logical to finally end up in jail for not paying a parking ticket or something, or something small, like if you don't pay your taxes, eventually you'll go to jail. So that's a kind of example of the violence of the state. So the purpose of revolution is to smash it. And so when you come to a revolutionary period, everything in the state becomes very centralized. And the state kind of becomes more and more hierarchical as you're approaching a revolutionary period. And it also becomes more centralized. And so that means smaller and smaller numbers of people call the shots. And so the idea behind revolution is to smash it. So when you smash it, you take away the control of the capitalist class over appropriating the extra surplus value that society has. So that's the first part of kind of state and revolution. And a lot of what Lenin has to say is that a lot of people have gotten Marx wrong on what you have to do in a revolution. So a lot of people think that you shouldn't smash the state. You should kind of just take over it. Like you should just start controlling the state, like the bourgeois state, and then that will lead to socialism maybe. And Lenin says, no, that's a very bad idea because you basically don't get rid of the capitalist class. You just become the capitalist class, or you get co-opted into them, and the exploitation of capitalism still remains the same. So you also have to replace the state with something. Actually, a lot of anarchists think that once you've smashed the state, that's it. You don't have to do any more. Society will kind of just reconfigure itself communally, and you can just keep going on like that. Or you might be able to set up workers' councils, but there'll be federations of workers' councils, and no one will really have to do anything more. Like things will just be fine from then on. You don't have to do any more organization. Everyone will take care of themselves. But Lenin famously says that you have to replace the bourgeois state with what he kind of vacillates between calling not really a state, a workers' state, or a semi-state. So what Lenin says you have to do then is so once you've gotten rid of the army, the bureaucracy, and the police, you take control of the means of production socially through a workers' state, and that's where you arm the working class. So normal, everyday working people become armed, and you form militias. So defense of the state becomes a kind of a more democratic thing, I guess. So you kind of have an armed populace that's ready to go and fight people who might come into the workers' state or try and take it over or whatever. Or that'd be your new police force. So if you need to make sure that someone isn't trying to take over, you can still protect the revolution and make sure there isn't a counter-revolution. So you arm the working class. And then you form Soviets or workers' councils. But these are centrally organized. They're not federated. That's what Lenin says. Personally, I think it doesn't really matter if you federate for a workers' state or not, or organize it centrally, but that doesn't really matter. This is what Lenin says. Lenin says that Marxists fundamentally believe in democratic centralism, which is where you have one central power, but it's democratically elected, and democratically run. And so I think there's special um, uh, qualifications that Lenin gives based on reading Marx and Engels, depending on how provinces and communes underneath the overall workers' state are meant to be organised. But fundamentally, there is no bureaucracy behind this state. There is no army, and there is no police. So this is really what Lenin talks about. These are the reasons why Lenin doesn't describe this new worker state as an actual state. It's because all of the executive and legislative functions of the Central Soviet or the Central Workers' Council will all be bound together. So it'll be a working body. It won't be a parliament, and it won't be like a legislative, or the legislative and executive functions won't be separate. So one big condition is that you have to have all of the representatives or workers' representatives in the Central Soviet or overall Workers' Council. They have to be able to be recalled at all times. And so he uses a lot of examples from Marx's book called The Civil War in France to explain all these things, because the workers' commune that was set up in 1871 in the Paris Commune was very instructive, because it gives a model of what the beginning of a workers' revolution or a socialist society is meant to be like. So once you've done that, then you've gotten to socialism, basically. And then communism is meant to happen after that. And that is when you don't have to have money anymore. And everyone has habitually learnt how to organize society along substantial and formal freedom, along the lines of substantial and formal freedom. So this is in complete contradiction to what I was taught in Socialist Alternative, when they said that there is no difference between socialism and communism. But Lenin actually says that there is a difference between socialism and communism, and that under socialism, everyone gets equal pay for equal work. And so if you do more work, you get more money. But the way I imagine this is in a 2016 context is that you get paid quite a bit of money depending on the work that you do, because I don't think anyone would really be able to do much more work than anyone else. Everyone's income would be substantially equal, I think. Which is kind of where a lot of my students get the derogatory slur that under communism everyone is meant to be paid the same. But I think it's like what my comrade Adam was saying today. We, in Western society, live under the illusion that we have to constantly be aspiring for luxury. But I think one of the big liberating things of socialism will teach us is that you'll be able to have all the basic necessities for very rudimentary amounts of work. Like, you probably won't have to work as hard as you do under capitalism, and you probably get rewarded a lot more than you do under capitalism. Like, I imagine that it would be very easy to get a new TV. It would be very nice. It would be very easy to get a car. Like, you wouldn't have to pay as much, and you wouldn't have to work as hard to get a car. And you wouldn't have to work in all these pointless jobs. Like, there wouldn't need to be a Centrelink. You wouldn't have to wait in line for Centrelink. You could just get, and if you were disabled, you could very easily get all the resources that you needed to support yourself. You wouldn't have to work. If you had a mental illness, you could just go to a doctor. So all of the things that begin to form under communism, you being able to get what you need, would be very easy to get, I think, because the social surplus of society would be managed democratically and publicly. So it seems like a very nice thing, and I think I would definitely call myself a Leninist based on my reading of State and Revolution, because it seems like a very nice idea, and it seems to make sense, and it's reasoned very well. The reasoning that he gives is pretty good, but in places he doesn't give very good reason. He kind of just he doesn't give very good reasoning. He kind of just says, Marx says this, therefore it's true. There is a bit of that every now and then, but overall, I think it's a very thorough study of Marxism, and I think his the corrections of Kautsky and Bernstein, and of a lot of his polemics against a lot of other writers like Kropotkin. Oh, maybe it's not Kropotkin. No, not Kerensky. He's the Plekhanov. I think, or do you say Plekhanov? It's Plekhanov. Not Kropotkin. The polemic that he makes against Plekhanov is pretty damning. Plekhanov turned out to be awful in the revolution anyway. So yeah, that's State and Revolution. I think any good Leninist or any good communist should read it. I think it's a pretty good blueprint for what you should do in a revolution. But we're nowhere near a revolution right now. So all of this teaching is centuries away from us. But if a revolution ever does come, it gives you the overall strategy of what you should do. So anyway, this has gone on for a really long time. I'm really sorry about yesterday's vlog. I felt really, really bad. I'm trying to spend more time with Charmaine. Hopefully I'll wake up early tomorrow morning. I'll set an alarm so I can spend some time with Charmaine. My mood has been pretty bad lately. I need to do something about that. I think it mainly is because I really wanted to write my thesis or work on some vlogs, but I've had to potty train this new dog. I think I need to check myself, basically. I need to check myself before I wreck myself. I think I might be behaving in a sexist way. I'm not really sure. I need to support Charmaine more. I need to chill out. I think I'm starting to feel a lot better because the meds are kicking in. I think just a wave of relaxation just came over me just then. But anyway, I'm really glad I got to talk about State and Revolution. I feel really happy about myself now. Please forgive me for making such an awful, sad vlog for Tuesday. Although I was feeling pretty sad on Tuesday, so I guess that is pretty reflective of what happened. I'm gonna try and film more vlog days that actually occur on the day that I'm filming it. So yeah, alright comrades, I'll see you tomorrow.